Why feminists are begging for marriage now. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to discuss an article called The Feminist Case for Marriage, written by a woman named Louise. I will be sharing my thoughts on what she has to say. Today we're going to discuss about why feminists are begging for marriage. On April 6, 2022, the United Kingdom became the first country in the world to legalize divorce without regard default. I find it hard to believe that the United Kingdom did not begin this practice until some 40 to 50 years after the rest of the Western world did so. The monogamous marriage model had many flaws, and the sexual revolutionaries are correct in pointing them out. Traditionally, the father was primarily responsible for earning money and the mother was responsible for caring for the children at home. However, attempting to play the successful role of mother and father simultaneously as single mothers are forced to do. A single mother can't take care of a successful family all by her. So what does she do? She begins by arguing that feminists are both right and wrong about marriage. And then she goes on to argue that weddings are too expensive in today's society. It seems as though she is laying the blame on males. Keep in mind that the top 5 to 10% of guys aren't participating in very much sexual activity. What about as she criticized the women those men are sleeping with, saying that they are too willing to give sex away? Protects the economic interests of the mother and creates a stable environment for the raising of children. And they already have such a technology, even if it's old, clunky, and prone to periodic failure. But when I hear that, all I hear is that women have their economic needs met through marriage, and children have a good environment. For males in this situation, returning to the concept of the traditional marriage is a step backward. You also can't force them to not go around and sleep with married women and wreck their relationships in that way either. In addition to this, she talks about how, beginning with Generation Z and the United States, there is currently a sexual counter-revolution. Yeah, I don't believe you are not going to be successful in persuading those who ride the carousel while wearing couches to give up writing. The other half of the population is forced to literally bear the consequences of a sexual encounter that goes wrong, while the first half of the population consists of people who are significantly more physically imposing, who are significantly more interested in pursuing casual sex, and who will never be able to get pregnant. Because of the way our biology works, when sex unexpectedly results in pregnancy, as it still often does despite modern contraception, it'll always be the woman left cradling the kid, as the saying goes. Women can always dump that bag of cells by simply getting an abortion. She grouses about how rosy the future appears to be for the offspring of people whose parents were never married. In the first place is approximately twice as likely for parents who have never been married to part ways as it is for married parents to do so. When this occurs, children are left with the option of growing up in a family with only one parent, or moving in with one of the step-parents, typically the stepfather. Rape and thus having his life ruined by doing so. Doesn't anyone else hear that? It sounds like shaming language targeting men that are living in common law relationships with kids that are unmarried. Doesn't anyone else hear that? It sounds like shaming language targeting men? At the end of the piece. Previously, feminists dismantled marriage, but now they have suddenly rediscovered it and relabeled it as if it were their own idea. Now it appears that they want it back, but under a different name, so that they can avoid the appearance of being foolish for giving up on it. In the first place, there has been a slight decline in divorce rates, not because of a genuine return to marital longevity, but rather because you can't get divorced if you don't get married in the first place, and marriage rates have not stopped falling. Rates not because of a genuine return to marital longevity. In 191608, 8% of all children were born to parents were not married in 2019. That this percentage has decreased to 7% in 2019, it was almost half the institution of marriage, as it once was, is now more or less dead. Why would a guy put his own life in jeopardy for the sake of the woman who is no longer his wife? It would appear that, all of a sudden, a lot of other women have become aware of the problem. That is the household headed by a single mother. Despite the often valiant efforts of single mothers, the data clearly shows. This is due to the fact that single mothers are expected to take on the nearly insurmountable responsibility of doing everything individually. All of the child-rearing responsibilities, including providing care, fostering socialization, and instilling discipline. As single mothers in impoverished conditions, they are in desperate need of rescue. No one is coming to save them. They appear to have a requirement for a male utility. They are working harder to provide better life for themselves and their children with the money they earn. If this is the case, then why is the mainstream media suddenly concerned about rising birth rates? Is it because women are struggling to raise their children on their own? Is it possible that the low fertility rates are the driving force behind the government's desire to encourage people of British origin to have more children? This is nothing more than a desire to subjugate men in order to relieve the government of the financial burden of supporting single moms. It's a feminist stronghold full of non-men who won't even step foot inside to get married. They point the finger at non-resident fathers who do not pay their child support obligations in full and call them deadbeat dads. If you are interested in this video, please like and subscribe the channel. Also press bell icon for more videos update.